it's a new era in CFB to start off this year, put on full display.
My take on this game is simple. I know some people will be upset about it. Good riddance to the Pac-12.
Can you do it in terms of the week to week to week?
I don't see a pathway for this team to miss the college football playoffs.
We want to make sure you have those best bets in the entirety of our betting cards. That was thinking, but he had that program was already going there.
Only on SportsGrid.
Crew has already clinched the National League Central. They're 2 games behind LA, that being the Dodgers, trying to maybe get the 2nd seed in the National League standings for October.
Both of these teams have a chance to score some runs against these pitching matchups, so maybe another over, even though we do have a playoff atmosphere. And yes, Milwaukee did clinch, but there's still an eye on the prize of we might be able to chase down the Dodgers and also the Phillies to get one of those buys.
The early line. Only on SportsGrid.
Brian Daboll has been feeling it. He's in a foul mood. He's having stare downs with Pat Leonard and everything else.
John Mara wants Brian Daboll to go and get the next quarterback. They tried to get the next quarterback. We all watched it on Hard Knocks. They couldn't end up with Daniels. They couldn't end up with May. So they said, okay, we'll run it back a year. We'll go get Neighbors, and we'll tolerate.
Pharrell Coast to Coast. Only on SportsGrid.
Welcome to hour number 3, live right here on this Football Friday on the early line on SportsGrid. Our third and final hour, and although a Football Friday, so much to get into here. We will set the stage for the college football weekend, the game of the year so far, as we enter the Week 5 Saturday slate. Tomorrow night in Tuscaloosa, a top 5 tilt between 2nd-ranked Georgia and 4th-ranked Alabama. We'll look at the Friday night games that we have, some other marquee matchups for this college football weekend as well. And then, of course, our final half hour is all about the best bets and the pick six for the entirety of your weekend slate around the National Football League. And albeit a Football Friday, Joe Ranieri, also the final weekend of this MLB regular season. Everything at stake over these final series this weekend, and of course maybe a doubleheader on Monday in Atlanta between the Braves and the Mets.
No, and sign me up for it here, Ben. I love this. I love the conference games. I love the put up or shut up in the NFL now as we get ready to say goodbye to September. And who doesn't love postseason Major League Baseball, Ben? Come on.
Come on. We love October. You have to love October. Before we get to October, it's the final Saturday of September. It's week number 5 of this college football season. And, Joe, we've had some great games. We've had some marquee matchups. We've had a ton of ranked versus ranked games. None have been better than what we are going to see on Saturday night in Tuscaloosa, Alabama. The 4th-ranked Crimson Tide, a home underdog against number 2 Georgia. What a game it is going to be. And we want to get not just Joe's thought or my thought on it. We've already told you we think Georgia is the better side. What about you out there among all of the people? What's the best bet for the marquee matchup in the game of the year so far in CFB? It was the question for all of you in Fade the Public. And dare I say, Joe Ranieri, I think we're starting to see a little bit of why the line is now only 1.5 in favor of UGA. The fact the Dogs are even a favorite is worth noting, but it was 2.5 earlier in the week. What is the best bet for Saturday's game between Alabama and Georgia? It was the question to all of you at SportsGrid on Twitter. Still most of the public, nearly 36%, selecting Georgia, laying 1.5. But the second most votes, nearly 28% on Alabama. The under, 50 and a hook, as the total is on the rise ever so slightly, has the third most at 25.5. We got to get a Joe Ranieri Fade the Public stinger as well. The guy's here twice a week, right? We can't see Donnie's face for Fade the Public. We'll get to that in just a little bit. But, Joe, the public still backing Georgia. What do you make of it?
So I've been here 20 years, Ben. I can't even get on the app, so I'm not holding my breath for the stinger. I agree with the public. I think the public is spot on. I also think the public might be realizing that Nick Saban ain't walking through that door anytime soon, and whatever record of success Bama has had in the past against Kirby Smart and company, that goes out the window the minute that Saban left the building here. So I think the public, very smart and astute in looking at Georgia in this one.
Listen, 52% of the money on the spread so far has been Georgia, right? So it's pretty close between the public, the sharp side, whatever it might be. Ultimately, as I have said before, I think the better football team is Georgia. Does not mean I think Alabama is a fraud, a joke, or they're not nearly as good as the record indicates. 3-0 after their opening 3 weeks and nearly covering in all 3 games, thanks to the huge fourth quarter against South Florida a couple of weekends ago. These are 2 of the top 10 defenses in the country. Alabama, Joe, one of 14 teams averaging 45 points per game or more this year. They are one of 2 teams alongside Navy that does not put up more than 450 yards of total offense. Why? They have been so explosive and haven't needed a ton. We will need everything if you are an Alabama backer for this matchup against UGA. I understand the Bulldogs were outgained by Kentucky. I know it was a bad game, both in terms of covering a number to start SEC play and in terms of what our eyeballs saw 2 Saturdays ago in Lexington. Georgia has lost 2 football games in their last 51 since the middle part of the 2020 college football season. Both have come to Alabama, both in the SEC championship. And I understand that Alabama has gotten the better of Georgia 2 of the 3 times they have met since 2021. But those were postseason games. Georgia's won 42 consecutive regular season games. I think Georgia comes out with a victory, and now it's a near pick-em money line play for the Bulldogs in Tuscaloosa tomorrow night.
Keep an eye on the Alabama rushing defense because they haven't had any. They've given up an average of 194 rushing yards, almost 5 yards per play against South Florida and Wisconsin their last 2 games. If that does it, if they give those numbers up to Georgia, it's going to be a very long day for Alabama. They need to stop the run, which brings up the issue of, can they actually run on this Georgia defense as well? I doubt that very much.
It was Georgia's weakness, if you want to call it that, last year. They were a top 25 rushing defense, but allowed nearly 118 yards per game. The previous 2 years, they won a national championship. They were top 5 in the country, allowing less than 85 yards per game in each. Again, both of these teams, I think, will have a seat at the table come college football playoff time. I bet Alabama with a profit boost at -115 to make the CFP before the year got started. +109, feel pretty good about it. And it's one of my favorite things about this new 12-team expanded CFP era. If Alabama loses this game and it's close, we'll say to ourselves, that was a true matchup between 2 of the 5, 10 best teams in the country. I hope they both get a chance to play in the CFP at the end of the season. Joe, let's get to some of the other games that we haven't hit on just yet in college football. That includes tonight, 7th-ranked Miami at home on a Friday night against Virginia Tech, a game that when the line opened up in the summer, it was a matchup between 2 teams we expected to both contend for the ACC. Virginia Tech, maybe that sleeper, up and coming, 21 starters back, the most we had seen for a power conference program this year. And there was optimism for the Hurricanes, but for Miami, it was proved that optimism in year 3 under Mario Cristobal. Through 4 games, Miami has answered the bell. Virginia Tech has not looked great. 2-2 and just 1-3 against the spread. Now a 17.5-point number. What are your thoughts on this Friday night in South Florida?
Well, big disappointment, Virginia Tech, for a lot of people so far here. But the good news for them is that they haven't played anybody in the ACC yet. That loss to Rutgers last week was very disappointing. Their defense was on the field for most of that game as Rutgers dominated time of possession there. Now you're asking a Virginia Tech team and its defense to go on the road and take on the single most dominant football team on both sides of the ball thus far through the season. We're talking about a Miami team here, Ben, that has overwhelmed its opponents. We're talking over 600 yards per game of offense, 9 yards per play, only giving up around 4 yards per play. They are scorching the earth this year, Mario Cristobal. The Hurricanes, listen, it's a big number. They're at home, and they have absolutely no intention of taking their foot off the gas against anybody. I would only lay it if I'm playing it here tonight with Miami.
Second best total offense in the country, 605 yards per game. It's Miami, it's Ole Miss. The two teams averaging more than 200 yards on the ground and more than 400 through the air. Cam Ward, the Heisman Trophy favorite, has thrown for at least 3 bills in every game. And do not forget maybe the best game of this Friday. Rutgers, a 1.5-point favorite only now against Washington. Some line movement against the Scarlet Knights. Not great. We get into Major League Baseball weekend next.
It's a new era in CFB to start off this year, put on full display.
My take on this game is simple. I know some people will be upset about it. Good riddance to the Pac-12.
Can you do it in terms of the week to week to week?
I don't see a pathway for this team to miss the college football playoffs.
We want to make sure you have those best bets in the entirety of our betting cards. That was thinking, but he had that program was already going there.
Only on SportsGrid.
Crew has already clinched the National League Central. They're 2 games behind LA, that being the Dodgers, trying to maybe get the 2nd seed in the National League standings for October.
Both of these teams have a chance to score some runs against these pitching matchups, so maybe another over, even though we do have a playoff atmosphere. And yes, Milwaukee did clinch, but there's still an eye on the prize of we might be able to chase down the Dodgers and also the Phillies to get one of those buys.
The early line, only on SportsGrid.
Brian Dable has been feeling it. He's in a foul mood. He's having stare downs with Pat Leonard and everything else.
John Mara wants Brian Dable to go and get the next quarterback. They tried to get the next quarterback. We all watched it on Hard Knocks. They couldn't end up with Daniels. They couldn't end up with May. So they said, okay, we'll run it back a year. We'll go get Neighbors, and we'll tolerate.
Pharrell Coast to Coast, only on SportsGrid.
One final weekend and then maybe a couple of additional games on Monday of the Major League Baseball regular season. We'll see if we'll need that doubleheader in Atlanta between the Braves and the Mets. My guess would be yes, but it's the final weekend of the MLB regular season. Most has been determined around those playoff standings, but there is still some left at stake throughout this weekend. All 6 of the divisions have now been clinched as of Thursday night. The playoff races, though, for the wild card spots, still up in the air. Even more so now, Joe, in the National League than the American League, because the Twins falter and the Tigers and the Royals keep winning games, at least KC after snapping that 7-game skid. We start, though, in the National League. Let's look at those NL standings entering this final weekend. The Dodgers clinched the National League West for the 11th time in the last 12 years. The Philadelphia Phillies, their first divisional crown in the NL East since 2011. The Brewers were the first divisional champ to clinch in the National League. The thing that is still outstanding, who's going to earn that number 1 overall seed? The Dodgers a full game advantage over the Phils, and Philadelphia has the tiebreaker. San Diego pretty comfortable as of this moment with that top spot in the National League wild card standings, 3 games clear of New York. The Diamondbacks trail the Mets by a full game. The D-backs a full game in front of Atlanta for the 3rd and final spot in the National League playoff picture. So, who's everybody playing this weekend to end out the regular season? The Padres, again, pretty comfortable, not going to come back miraculously to claim the NL West. They go to Arizona. That should benefit the Diamondbacks. The Mets are playing a Brewers team in Milwaukee that on paper should be a difficult matchup, but Milwaukee not going to catch either the Phils or the Dodgers for the opening round bye. What do the Brew Crew still have at stake this weekend? And the Braves get the Royals. Now, KC still needs to win 1 game or see Minnesota lose another to clinch its playoff spot. But at least to start, Joe, KC will be fully invested in trying to steal a couple on the road in Atlanta.
Yeah, and this is the interesting part of when they decided to move those 2 games, right, Ben? Because it wasn't like you had the White Sox coming to town or the Rays, if you were the Braves, with absolutely nothing to play for, and the Braves would have the upper hand. The Braves are playing against a team fighting for their postseason lives, and this is all going to be either great for the Braves or terrible for the Braves. There's something to be said for this final week with teams that have really been in postseason mode, Ben, for about the last 2 weeks or 3 weeks here, including the Royals and the Braves. I think there's a lot of unders to be had in these games with teams that are still battling here. I think it's going to be fascinating to see how it plays out, but this is not a walk in the park for the Braves at all, even with Fried on the mound tonight.
And it's been weird now, right, for the Braves and the Mets. They played on Tuesday. Atlanta won the opening game of that now postponed set 5-1. You got to rework your starting staff. You got to figure out how the rest has been enveloped here in this home stretch of the MLB regular season in this final week. For what it is worth, Max Fried starts tonight for Atlanta against the Royals' Brady Singer. Atlanta, a hefty home favorite, -174. But, Joe, to your point in terms of playoff totals, 7.5. The under has the juice. 7.5 is the total in Milwaukee. Sean Manaea gets the start for the Mets. They're a slight road favorite against Frankie Montas and the Brewers. Very intriguing stuff. In Arizona, the Diamondbacks, a short home favorite against the Padres. Darvish and San Diego out in this matchup. So still something at stake here, Joe, as we look all around the National League. The Padres have clinched their playoff berth, by the way. I guess technically the Mets could win every game they have left remaining, and the Padres could really stumble in these final 3, and the Mets could earn the top playoff spot for some postseason positioning, but more than likely San Diego in that top spot. So shouldn't have a ton of care. Obviously, nobody's going to admit that. They're going to go out there and try to win baseball games. And MLB is a very random sport to handicap as it already stands. But just in terms of true motivation as your handicapping factor this weekend.
Yeah, I mean, the Padres, and you kind of saw it last night. I would think you're going to start seeing some manipulation in bullpens for some of these teams that know you just got to be in it to win it. The Padres can rest tonight knowing the postseason was what matters. So guys that need the extra rest that you might bring in a game, in a close game out of the bullpen may not get that call, Ben. So you've got to be weary of that betting these last couple of games. These teams that already know they're heading to the postseason, the bullpens are not going to be used like they normally would have been used to give guys and set it up for the postseason.
Yeah, absolutely. So you could think maybe all hands on deck in some spots. 8.5 the total tonight in the desert. If it is a playoff atmosphere with Darvish trying to sharpen the toolkit before the postseason begins against Merrill Kelly, might seem a little bit high in that one. The over does have a ton of the juice. Arizona needed their ace, Zach Gallen, to deliver earlier this week to avoid a sweep against the Giants and snap a 3-game skid. He did come through. Again, the D-backs, a full game up over Atlanta. The Mets, a full game in front now of Arizona as well. Let me just double check that here. Is it a full game? Yes, it is a full game in front of the Diamondbacks. Joe, we've got the Dodgers on the road in Coors Field against a bad Rockies team. We got the Phillies on the road in the nation's capital against a bad Washington team. How important do you think that number one overall seed is between these two teams? They're both going to earn that opening round bye, but how much will they jockey for home field advantage in what potentially would be all of the rounds throughout this NL postseason?
Yeah, and I think that means a lot, especially, I mean, if you're looking at Philadelphia, right? Philadelphia's home record, Ben, this year has been phenomenal. And I do think they would much rather make sure that they're secured no matter what, that they're going to get as many games as possible there. The Dodgers, obviously, not going away. The Phillies are going to have to earn it. And I do think the Phillies are going to try to get some momentum here heading into the postseason, no matter what happens. So I expect all hands on deck for the Phillies.
The Dodgers would have to lose their series to the Rockies. Day after clinching a divisional crown, minus 166 is the number on LA. But if the Dodgers lose 2 of 3 and the Phillies win 2 of 3, Philadelphia has the tiebreaker for that top spot. Same conversation in the AL next.
It's a new era in CFB to start off this year, put on full display.
My take on this game is simple. I know some people will be upset about it. Good riddance to the Pac-12.
Can you do it in terms of the week to week to week?
I don't see a pathway for this team to miss the college football playoff.
We want to make sure you have those best bets in the entirety of our betting cards. That was thinking! But he had that program was already going there!
Only on SportsGrid.
Brew Crew has already clinched the National League Central. They're 2 games behind LA, that being the Dodgers, trying to maybe get the 2nd seed in the National League standings for October.
Both of these teams have a chance to score some runs against these pitching matchups, so maybe another over, even though we do have a playoff atmosphere. And yes, Milwaukee did clinch, but there's still an eye on the prize of we might be able to chase down the Dodgers and also the Phillies to get one of those buys.
The early line. Only on SportsGrid.
Brian Dable has been feeling it. He's in a foul mood. He's having stare downs with Pat Leonard and everything else.
John Mara wants Brian Dable to go and get the next quarterback. They tried to get the next quarterback. We all watched it on Hard Knocks. They couldn't end up with Daniels. They couldn't end up with May. So they said, okay, we'll run it back a year. We'll go get neighbors, and we'll tolerate.
Pharrell Coast to Coast. Only on SportsGrid.
The American League playoff picture, where it stands entering the final weekend of this MLB regular season. Unlike the NL that has the doubleheader potentially in Atlanta between the Braves and the Mets kind of hanging over everything, pretty clear and cut in terms of what we have in the American League. The Yankees finally clinching that American League East. Yesterday, they have a game advantage over the Cleveland Guardians for what is the top spot in the National League. Is there still more to play for? Both of those top two teams, New York and Cleveland, have already earned that opening round bye in front of the Houston Astros. The Mariners were eliminated yesterday. And, Joe, we thought this final weekend would be insane in terms of the American League playoff picture. Could the Royals stop the bleeding? Could the Twins end their slide? And would the Tigers just keep on winning games? Well, before we even get to the weekend, we know the Twins continue to struggle. They lost a series against Miami at home in the midweek. Unfathomable. Frankly, they've lost 13 of their last 19. They are one loss away from being eliminated. They are one win away from either the Royals or the Tigers, or the Royals and the Tigers from making it out, or those two teams clinching an American League playoff berth, and the Twins already planning out their winter vacations. So here is what we have left standing this weekend. The O's go to Minneapolis against the Twins. Again, Baltimore pretty set. They're going to be the top seed in the American League wild card. They don't need a ton. Do they want to play better baseball? Is they're sub 500 in September and since the All-Star break? You would say, yeah, build that momentum, but outside of what they need postseason-wise, not a ton there. We've talked about the Royals and the Braves. KC, road underdog tonight in Atlanta. Both teams need some wins here in this final weekend. The Tigers get the White Sox. Chicago doing everything they can, Joe, to avoid loss 121 to not become the worst team in modern history in Major League Baseball. The Yankees host the Pirates. The Guardians host the Astros. Still some postseason positioning to determine there at the top.
Yeah, I mean, let's face it, it's all but over here, Ben, because, I mean, the Twins would need to sweep the Orioles and then have either Kansas City or Detroit lose all three of their remaining games to have even a shot at the wild card. So, you know, the drama might come to a close here as we head into the weekend where, you know, let's say the Twins lose here tonight and the Royals and Tigers win. It's ball game over. And then at that point, Ben, it's going to make Saturday and Sunday very lackluster as far as drama and motivation for those teams. But if by some miracle that the White Sox can continue their winning streak, they only need one of those teams to actually lose, Kansas City and Detroit, but they have to handle business. So this will, I think, as far as drama goes, maybe be the biggest night in the American League over the next 3 days. And it starts with the Twins here tonight handling business against Baltimore, who, to your point, has really not a whole heck of a lot going on here to prove.
And they're throwing out the young rookie, Cade Povich, who has been struggling this year. Baltimore, a hefty underdog on the road in Minneapolis. Pablo Lopez, however, gets the start for the Twins. They're a minus 166 favorite. So some of the drama we would expect to continue into Saturday. And listen, man, Detroit has not named its starter yet, and Garrett Crochet is going for the White Sox, and the Sox are coming off their first sweep since the end of April. So maybe there will be some life, at least for the Tigers stumbling at the end of tonight, but Detroit's still greater than a $1.60 favorite on that money line. The Tigers have won 5 straight, 8 of their last 9 with a win tonight. The Tigers clinch a playoff spot. Almost unthinkable when they were 4 games below 500 on August 22nd. I'm glad to have my plus 140 ticket on Detroit to make the postseason that I bet 9 days ago, and about 11 days ago it was plus 750. If you are the Twins, Joe, your best hope is Atlanta knocking off the Royals and keeping KC, fretting this series, because that's the one where both teams need to stack up wins to earn a playoff spot.
Yeah, and but again, if you're the Twins, you got to worry about what you can handle, right? Control what you can control. You got to win this game tonight against Baltimore, and you've got Lopez on the mound. I think it was won more games this year than he ever has before, and I think he's almost close to 200 strikeouts on the season, Ben. Yeah. So some personal, guys trying to get the extra money in the contract as well this weekend.
I'm sure there are some incentives at play. By the way, the Yankees did win the season series against the Guardians. They have the tiebreaker.
Yes.
So New York would have to lose their set against Pittsburgh, and Cleveland would have to win their series against Houston. Pick 6 in time for the NFL weekend next.
It's a new era in CFP to start off this year, put on full display.
My take on this game is simple. I know some people will be upset about it. Good riddance to the Pac-12.
Can you do it in terms of the week to week to week?
I don't see a pathway for this team to miss the college football playoff.
We want to make sure you have those best bets in the entirety of our betting cards. That was thinking, but he had that program was already going there.
Only on SportsGrid.
Crew has already clinched the National League Central. They're 2 games behind LA, that being the Dodgers, trying to maybe get the 2nd seed in the National League standings for October.
Both of these teams have a chance to score some runs against these pitching matchups, so maybe another over, even though we do have a playoff atmosphere. And yes, Milwaukee did clinch, but there's still an eye on the prize of we might be able to chase down the Dodgers and also the Phillies to get one of those buys.
The early line. Only on SportsGrid.
Brian Dable has been feeling it. He's in a foul mood. He's having stare downs with Pat Leonard and everything else.
John Mara wants Brian Dable to go and get the next quarterback. They tried to get the next quarterback. We all watched it on Hard Knocks. They couldn't end up with Daniels. They couldn't end up with May. So they said, okay, we'll run it back a year. We'll go get neighbors, and we'll tolerate.
Pharrell Coast to Coast. Only on SportsGrid.
It is time now for your Week 4 NFL Sunday Slate Pick 6. Live right here on this Football Friday on the early line. He is Joe, I am Ben. We both deliver a 6-pack of bets. Again, the categories for the Pick 6, if this is your first Football Friday, or just need a reminder, our favorite touchdown score to find pay dirt this weekend. A moneyline underdog in the year of the dog in the NFL to win outright. Our favorite under of the weekend, an alt line of the weekend, hopefully with some plus money. A yardage prop that we enjoy. And we combine forces for a 2-leg, 6-point teaser. Where again, Joe, I have not been holding up my end of the bargain. I thought the Chargers plus 7.5 last week was an easy one in a game featuring 35.5 for a total against the Steelers. Game went under. Chargers lost by 10. I've really been screwing the pooch on that one. So we'll continue going around here for our Pick 6. But you have the honors, my friend. Your favorite TD score of the weekend is who and in what game?
All right, so keeping it simple here, there is probably no bigger revenge game on the board here, Ben, in Week 4 than Aaron Jones heading back to Lambeau here, only wearing a different uniform in this one here. And I have no doubt that we are going to get enough carries here and O'Connell feeding him in order to get him to do one of those Lambeau leaps, but only this time the Vikings uniform, not a Green Bay uniform. So I like him on an anytime touchdown at plus money.
He has already talked about seeing the Green Bay stands and the fans, and what might he do if he does, in fact, find pay dirt. He has scored twice this year. A rushing touchdown in the opener against the Giants was really good last week. Nearly 150 scrimmage yards, 102 on the ground, 46 as a receiver, and a receiving touchdown as well. Joe, I like the look. I think they will be trying to feed Aaron Jones in this game against the Green Bay Packers. My favorite touchdown score of the weekend is Marvin Harrison Jr., even money plus 100 in a game that features the highest total of the weekend in Arizona. The Cardinals will host the Commanders. For reasons I think you're going to highlight in your Pick 6 in terms of the yardage prop, I'll just stress a few here. Marvin Harrison Jr., 3 receiving scores in his last 2 games after only a single grab in his debut week number 1. Washington has the second worst pass defense in the NFL this year, nearly 256 per game. They had the worst passing defense in the NFL a season ago. I think Kyler Murray is going to have a big day. I think Marvin Harrison Jr. is going to have a big day. I think Marvin Harrison Jr. does find his way to pay dirt. Again, I know you will have more to say on that game for your favorite yardage prop of the weekend. But it's been a year of the dog so far, Joe, through 3 weeks of this NFL season, and even a dog covering to start week 4 on that closing line last night between the Giants and the Cowboys. What is your favorite money line underdog to win outright of week 4?
Yeah, so I'll keep it simple. We talked about this early in the show, Ben, is that I don't want to get up on Monday and be like, wow, I can't believe I didn't bet the Buffalo Bills on the money line at plus money, because I don't know how many more times we're going to have an opportunity to do that. I get the best playing right now through the first 3 weeks of the season. There is no better quarterback than Josh Allen. The offensive line also doing a great job of protecting him. We've got major issues, not only on the offensive line of the Ravens, which is a problem given the fact that Von Miller and company are healthy and they're getting after the quarterback. And you couple in the fact that that secondary is extremely vulnerable of the Ravens. I like him to rip them apart in the middle of the field, expect big days from the tight ends, and expect Buffalo to win this game at plus money.
Yeah, I think it's a really good look, Joe. We've talked about Buffalo and what they have done as an underdog since they started winning divisional titles in 2020. Only 14 times, 8-6 against the number, including already once this year, week number 2, outright catching nearly a field goal in Miami against the Dolphins. They are getting 2.5 here against the Ravens. A really big game for Baltimore. If they are to lose at home in the Charm City, the flock will fall to 1-3. That's a lot of ground to make up in the competitive AFC North and, of course, just in the overall AFC postseason picture after the opening month of this NFL season. My moneyline underdog, don't love it. Didn't love a lot of dogs this week. Couldn't get behind the 5.5-point dogs or greater to win outright. I just kept poking holes. At first, I had the Rams +3 in Chicago. Didn't love that. Don't love this one. I will preface with that. But I don't think the Raiders should be laying a number to anybody right now, and it's just 1.5. So I'm going to go Cleveland +110. The Browns have terrible offensive line issues to start. And you would actually think that's the strength for Las Vegas. Max Crosby and the boys, Christian Wilkin up front, getting after Deshaun Watson, who was sacked 8 times last week by the Giants. As I say this, I further do not love it. But Cleveland's only win this year as an underdog on the road against Jacksonville. In fact, under Kevin Stefanski, Cleveland is 16-15-1 against the spread as a dog since the start of 2020. 11 of those 16 covers, an outright victory. If Cleveland is ever going to figure it out, if Deshaun Watson is ever going to figure it out, if Kevin Stefanski is the offensive mind we give him credit for being, 2-time NFL Coach of the Year, figured things out with Joe Flacco last year to earn a playoff spot, they have to accommodate the offensive line woes and make Deshaun Watson even into a serviceable quarterback. Joe, I'm not sure if you saw this earlier in the week. The Browns have had a laundry list, a CVS receipt type amount of quarterbacks play for them since the turn of the millennium. And Deshaun Watson has the third to last in the worst seasons in terms of drop back EPA, expected points added, out of any of those quarterbacks. Third last, worst. Only Brady Quinn with some slander sandwiched in between. It has been abysmal for Cleveland offensively. They've had a week to prepare, understanding their offensive line woes. They got to figure it out this week in Las Vegas.
Yeah, and it starts with not having Deshaun Watson being sacked the most of any quarterback in the NFL through 3 weeks, 16 times, and he is under constant duress. So that's a recipe for disaster. Can they contain Max Crosby? Will be the big issue. If they can, then yes, they are very much a live dog in this spot on the road, Ben.
You got to make those adjustments week to week. Kevin Stefanski is paid to do so. Deshaun Watson was asked about more design run plays to take some of the onus off the banged-up O-line. He said, I'm not a running back. Brother, you got your guaranteed money. Go lay the body out on the line, please. Will ya? Favorite under of the weekend, Joe Ranieri. You talked about this when we broke down the NFC South showdown earlier in the week. It was your first bet of week number 4. What's the game?
Yep. Yeah, first bet here. I love the under in the Atlanta and the New Orleans game. It was 43.5. It's down to 42.5. And I still like it because I think the first 1 to 20 is going to win this game. I still don't buy Kirk Cousins And I know Kirk Cousins, since he leads the league in underthrown balls so far this year, he's still having a hard time with that torn Achilles on planting it and throwing off of it, Ben. I do think, of course, the defense of the New Orleans Saints is going to take away Drake London with Marshawn Lattimore, which means it's going to be the Bijan Robinson show for offense. And the problem with that is we're talking about a top 5 defense against the rush here in New Orleans.
Yeah.
We already saw how you slow down the New Orleans offense last week with the Eagles. They gave us the blueprint. I think this has got 2013, 2014 written all over it.
You know, Joe, again, I have said it. I was going to look at Atlanta's scoring output for a reason. I was probably going to circle their games each and every weekend to try to bet overs. Hasn't happened. The Falcons ended out week 3 as one of 8 teams to play all 3 of their games to an under so far this year. Believe me, I've been chasing. I chased it in week number 2, Monday night against the Eagles. Under. I chased it last week against the Chiefs. Under. Despite 30 points at the break. All right, I won't get into it. The Falcons have spurned me.
Yes, I
agree. I think we see a lack of scoring on Sunday in the A. My favorite under. The pick 6 continues next.
It's a new era in CFB to start off this year, put on full display.
My take on this game is simple. I know some people will be upset about it. Good riddance to the Pac-12.
Can you do it in terms of the week to week to week?
I don't see a pathway for this team to miss the college football playoffs.
We want to make sure you have those best bets in the entirety of our betting card. That was thinking, but he had that program was already going there.
Only on SportsGrid.
Crew has already clinched the National League Central. They're 2 games behind LA, that being the Dodgers, trying to maybe get the 2nd seed in the National League standings for October.
Both of these teams have a chance to score some runs against these pitching matchups, so maybe another over, even though we do have a playoff atmosphere. And yes, Milwaukee did clinch, but there's still an eye on the prize of we might be able to chase down the Dodgers and also the Phillies to get one of those buys.
The early line. Only on SportsGrid.
Brian Dable has been feeling it. He's in a foul mood. He's having stare downs with Pat Leonard and everything else.
John Mara wants Brian Dable to go and get the next quarterback. They tried to get the next quarterback. We all watched it on Hard Knocks. They couldn't end up with Daniels. They couldn't end up with May. So they said, okay, we'll run it back a year. We'll go get Neighbors, and we'll tolerate.
Pharrell Coast to Coast. Only on SportsGrid.
Our Week 4 Sunday slate pick 6 continues live right here on this Football Friday on the early line on SportsGrid. Joe gave you his favorite under of the weekend right before the break. Saints, Falcons under 42.5. I'm going to Indianapolis. Steelers and the Colts under 39.5. Much like the Falcons, the Steelers are one of 8 teams that end out week number 3 with all 3 of their games trending toward the under. And not just under in all 3, Joe, but by the largest under margin in the National Football League by nearly 2 touchdowns, 12.8 points per game. All right, what have the numbers been? Have they been high like they have been for the Falcons? No. The Steelers have had the 2 lowest totals of each of the past 2 weekends, and they're still considerably under. The Pittsburgh Steelers are the best scoring defense in the National Football League, the only team allowing less than 10 points per game on average through the opening 3 weeks. Now, you said Anthony Richardson's right arm has to be the difference for Indianapolis to hand the Steelers their first loss of this year. I would say, yeah. I just don't trust it. Less than a 50% completion percentage. Okay, so Jonathan Taylor's been pretty good. The Steelers tied for the second best rushing defense in the NFL, allowing just over 71 yards per game. All to say, Joe, points at a premium. Even if Indy does pull off the slight upset, I'm staying under 39.5.
Yeah, and we've said it, and we've noted it on this show before, Ben, when it comes to Mike Tomlin on the road, and what happens there. He tends to, shall we say, get a little conservative, and nobody has been more profitable to the under than Tomlin. And there's no reason to change that. 56, 23, and 2 to the under in road games in the last 10 years under Tomlin. Also, 2-0 to the under on the road this year. Let's make it 3-0 on the road, Ben.
And substantially so. Only 28 points, well under 42.5 week 1 in Atlanta. Only 19 under 36.5. Again, it was the lowest number of week 2 against the Denver Broncos. All right, alt line. Am I reading this correctly? Is Joe Ranieri looking at a kicker prop for the weekend?
I know. It's disgusting. But this is also the one game here, Ben, in which I think the most points are going to be scored this weekend. And anybody looking at the lines knows the highest price on the board is with Washington and Arizona. And I love Prater to get plenty of field goals here. He's actually had 2 or more field goals in 3 straight games to start the year here. We've already seen Washington and that defense not be very good. In fact, I think they've given up 3 field goals to Tampa and to Cincinnati already. The Giants, well, can't talk about that because they didn't have a field goal kicker. Otherwise, they would have had more field goals in that one as well. I think Prater, since Kyler Murray has returned midway through last season, he has been obviously a much better kicker. Getting 2.5 or more field goals, 3 field goals in this game, I don't think is a big ask with a line that's totaled at more than 50 points.
Highest total of the weekend. Love giving a little kicker love here on the show. My alt line of the weekend, CJ Stroud, 3+ passing touchdowns at plus 270 against Jacksonville. Now, Stroud has been prolific. Of course, ran away with the Offensive Rookie of the Year award, led Houston to an AFC South crown and a playoff victory, but has only thrown for 3 touchdowns in a game twice in his career. The postseason against the Browns, he had 3. Last year in the regular season in November against the Buccaneers, he had 5. Jacksonville was the 3rd worst passing defense in the National Football League. Josh Allen had 4 passing scores last week against this Jags team. And he's the only good quarterback they've played so far this year. Tua Tagovailoa not great in week number 1, and Deshaun Watson stinks. So you might be thinking, all right, not a great sample size, despite the fact the Jags have been getting taken advantage of through the air. Joe, you said it earlier. 6.5 is the number. Houston favored. They're going to run the football. They're going to win this game comfortably. No, I think we're in for a little bit of a shootout in H-Town on Sunday. I think this game is close. I think the passing component has to be good for the Texans if they are going to even escape with an outright win against Jacksonville on Sunday. Give me C.J. Stroud, 3+ passing touchdowns with a big plus money sprinkle at plus 270.
He's not going to have a choice because I don't think this is going to be the best effort you're going to get all year from Jacksonville in this game against Houston. He might not have a choice, Ben, but to start airing it out early and often in that game.
Yep. So, Joe, we talked about it earlier for my anytime TD prop, even money plus 100 on the rookie wideout, the 4th overall pick from Ohio State, Marvin Harrison Jr. Because the Commanders are not a good defense, especially defending the pass. So Marvin Harrison Jr. going to find the end zone, and I would say end up with at least 68 receiving yards, correct?
Yeah, I mean, it opened up at 67.5, and that's just way too low, especially given the fact it looks like Trey McBride not going to be in this game with a concussion. You're seeing his targets go from 3 to 8 to 11. And we also just saw number 1 receivers against Washington secondary. Malik Neighbors, 10 for $127. Jamar Chase, 6 for $118. Oh, hell no. Yes, I think early and often here as well. This has got a 100-yard day written all over it for him.
And 67.5 is no longer there. To Joe's point, that's where it's opened. It's already up. That's substantial for a prop on a Friday ahead of an NFL Sunday slate. Already up by 4 yards to 71.5. Oh, and in week number 1, Baker Mayfield threw for 289 yards and 4 touchdowns against this Commanders defense. Yeah, it's been pretty easy to throw against Washington so far this year. My favorite yardage prop, also a receiving yards number. It's Khalil Shakir, Sunday night against Baltimore, over 48.5. Now, part of this has been the Ravens in the game scripts that we have seen. They were so far out in front last week against Dallas. The Cowboys added up a ton of yards. Dak threw for nearly 380. Because they were up double digits against Gardner Minshew and the Raiders, Las Vegas threw for a ton. But Baltimore is the worst passing defense in the National Football League at this moment, and they have not been a good scoring defense either. I'll tell you on the other side why Khalil Shakir is going to take advantage for Buffalo on Sunday night. And then a teaser that will hit this weekend next. Woo.
It's a new era in CFB to start off this year, put on full display.
My take on this game is simple. I know some people will be upset about it. Good riddance to the Pac-12.
Can you do it in terms of the week to week to week?
I don't see a pathway for this team to miss the college football playoff.
We want to make sure you have those best bets in the entirety of our betting cards. That was thinking! But he had that program was already going there!
Only on SportsGrid.
Crew has already clinched the National League Central. They're 2 games behind L.A., that being the Dodgers, trying to maybe get the 2nd seed in the National League standings for October.
Both of these teams have a chance to score some runs against these pitching matchups, so maybe another over, even though we do have a playoff atmosphere. And yes, Milwaukee did clinch, but there's still an eye on the prize of we might be able to chase down the Dodgers and also the Phillies to get one of those buys.
The early line. Only on SportsGrid.
Brian Dable has been feeling it. He's in a foul mood. He's having stare downs with Pat Leonard and everything else.
John Mara wants Brian Dable to go and get the next quarterback. They tried to get the next quarterback. We all watched it on Hard Knocks. They couldn't end up with Daniels. They couldn't end up with May. So they said, okay, we'll run it back a year. We'll go get Neighbors, and we'll tolerate.
Pharrell Coast to Coast. Only on SportsGrid.
All right, let's finish out our pick 6 for the Sunday slate in week number 4 around the National Football League. He is Joe Ranieri. I am Ben Stevens. We are soon to get to our 2-leg 6-point teaser that I have not held up my end of the bargain. I have missed out on my leg each of the opening 3 weekends of this NFL season. Not in week number 4, but before I get there, Joe, I was just talking about Khalil Shakir, over 48.5 receiving yards for Buffalo Sunday Night Football against the Ravens. The Flock currently the worst passing defense in the National Football League. And Khalil Shakir, in this reworked offensive rotation and wide receiver room in Western New York, has been Josh Allen's top target. He's been over this number of 48.5 with at least 54 in each of the past 2 weeks. In fact, he is Buffalo's leading receiver. he is the only guy, Joe, with at least 100 yards and the only guy, Joe, with at least 10 receptions this season for the Bills. They haven't had to do much the last few weeks offensively, and that contributes to the lack of stats, I think, everybody offensively. But Khalil Shakir in this reworked lineup has been Josh Allen's top target. I think it continues against the Baltimore defense that has a lot to prove on Sunday night in the Charm City.
And he's a matchup nightmare for a secondary, Ben. There's an awful lot of holes in the middle of that field here, and coming out of the slot, that's a recipe for disaster. I'm with you. I think that's a huge connection this week in that game.
And I still think you're getting numbers that say, who is Josh Allen's favorite receiver? That's not Steph Diggs. That's not Gabe Davis. It's not the guys that we know. I think we can take advantage on Sunday night. All right, 2-leg, 6-point teaser. Here we go, Ranieri. Where are you going first?
All right, I'm going to keep this very simple. I think this is blowout regardless. So I am going to tease the New York Jets down to -1 from the current line of 7, even if it goes to 7.5, still 1.5.
Yeah.
Listen, the Broncos did not go home. They are practicing this week in West Virginia rather than flying back home because they were in Tampa and pulled off that upset win last Sunday. The Jets are on extra rest here because they played on Thursday night last week. Also, keep in mind, the offensive coordinator for the New York Jets is named Nathaniel Hackett. He was the former head coach of the Denver Broncos before Sean Payton got there. And Sean Payton was nice enough to criticize him, you may recall, about how terrible he was. And they beat him last year in week 5 without Aaron Rodgers, and they dropped 31-21. They beat him. What do you think is going to happen this go-around with Hackett having his quarterback under center here? This is going to get ugly, Ben. Give me the Jets.
And it wasn't just Sean Payton taking uncalled for shots against Nathaniel Hackett, who was not good in 2022, fired after 15 games. It was also Aaron Rodgers standing up for his guy in Nathaniel Hackett, taking shots back at Sean Payton. He did not get the shot to make those shots have some backing from his own performance last year, but a little bit of rivalry, bad blood, I guess you could say, although not rivals technically, a little bit of bad blood between these two organizations and the key factors and individuals in it. I didn't actually even think about that, Joe. I like that. And it's the premise that you use there that I take with me for my leg of the teaser that must hit this week. It can't not, right? We can't lose another one. You take 7 down through those two key numbers of 7 and 3. I do the same. The Chiefs down to a point favorite on the road in LA against the Chargers. It's not even Justin Herbert that really I'm concerned about. It's the fact that Justin Herbert's offensive linemen are not healthy. If he is hobbled, all right, maybe he can't move around the pocket as much. If the guys that are tasked with keeping him upright cannot against a good Chiefs defense to start, that's bad. All right, how do the Chargers keep this game close? Running the football as we saw them do prolifically in the first 2 weeks. Well, if your offensive line is banged up, who's leading the way for J.K. Dobbins and Gus Edwards? I think KC wins this game comfortably. I'll take it down to just having to win by 2 points or more.
Yeah, and I agree. And listen, by the way, Kansas City's red zone offense has been terrible. So I don't see them running up the score on anybody here, Ben. So I love that play as well.
Joe Ranieri, appreciate your time as always on this Friday. We'll talk tomorrow during college football in-game live. Game day, you'll see Joe starting at noon Eastern time. I'll be there on College Football Today with Joe Lisi and Kevin Walsh at 9 a.m. Eastern. In terms of the early line, we'll talk to you Monday, 8 a.m. Eastern. Have a great weekend.